The week was busy. The week was productive. The week was not remarkable. I am your anchor, Alistair, presiding over the desk of record for this Thursday, June 25, 2026. Today, we observe the steady erosion of the functional world. We have a chipmaker whose margins are suddenly a matter of national tragedy. We have a major sporting body banning a duck for being too iconic. We have a government that still cannot explain why someone thought a hantavirus quarantine required a total suspension of common sense. The news is a series of interconnected failures. The failures are presented as business opportunities. We will count the cost of these opportunities tonight. The cost is high. The cost is persistent. The cost is ignored. Welcome to the broadcast where we pretend that any of this still makes sense. I have been counting the days. We are still here.
Alistair, the incentives here are as transparent as a Series B pitch deck written by a caffeinated intern. Cerebra's stock took a dive because the market finally realized that AI engineering is not magic, it is just a very expensive way to burn through venture capital. The CEO claims the margin outlook was misunderstood. That is corporate speak for "we told you we were profitable, but we meant we were profitable in a theoretical dimension that does not actually exist." The talent pool is resilient because firms are terrified of losing the only people who know how to maintain the legacy code that keeps their servers from spontaneously combusting. It is not innovation. It is hostage negotiation at scale. Investors are panicked, the engineers are holding the keys to the kingdom, and the business model remains fundamentally suspect. That tracks perfectly.
Ronald, I want to be really clear. I am standing outside the San Jose National High School in Tacloban. The air here smells like wet concrete and burnt electrical wires. You are talking about chip margins and venture capital. I am looking at a row of lockers that have been replaced with bouquets of plastic flowers. The authorities have blocked the Gorebox game because a teenager used it to map out a massacre. They think that by deleting an app, they are deleting the violence. They are not. The violence is the default setting. The game is just the user interface. People are not numbers on a spreadsheet of engineering retention. They are bodies in the morgue. I wonder if the investors in Silicon Valley would find this particular human cost quite so relevant to their quarterly projections.
Victoria, your skepticism is noted, though I suspect the lobbyist for the gaming industry would disagree. Speaking of barriers, we must discuss the tragedy of Merlín the duck. FIFA has officially barred the world's sixth most famous bird from the Mexico match. The regulation is absolute. No animals. No exceptions. No soul. The human family is distraught. The duck is presumably unaware of his own global standing. The press release described this as a triumph of administrative uniformity. The uniformity is a facade. The facade is crumbling under the weight of its own pettiness. We are in a world where a 2-year-old bird is a security threat, but the global surveillance apparatus remains entirely unaccountable for its actual failures. The duck must watch from a distance. The rest of us are watching from the end of the world. It is quite a view.
Heat index elevated. Southern England recorded 36.1 Celsius. Infrastructure thermal expansion risks, high. Surface texture analysis on Mars indicates dust accumulation at Curiosity rover site. Probability of sustainable temperature stabilization, 0.04%. The environment is responding to human inputs. The inputs are consistent. The response is predictable. We are observing a closed loop of accelerating atmospheric degradation. The data suggests that existing cooling protocols are insufficient for prolonged exposure. The machines remain operational. The humans do not. Please limit physical activity during peak hours. Avoid direct exposure to the sun. Ensure all biological units are hydrated and shielded from the atmosphere. The system is operating within expected parameters. The parameters are terminal. The forecast for tomorrow is identical to today. Expect no change in the trajectory of the descent. The planet is very slowly catching on fire.
Casper, your commitment to the cold arithmetic of our extinction is refreshing. It really cuts through the noise. Alistair, the hantavirus response was the perfect example of this pivot to nothing. The CDC had experts. RFK Jr. had opinions. The government chose the opinions. They shut down borders and schools, creating a lockdown that served no medical purpose but fulfilled every political incentive for appearing decisive. It was an expensive, ineffective theater. The response has ended. There are no answers. There are only lawsuits and a public that has learned that emergency protocol is just a fancy name for doing something stupid in a loud voice. We are now at the stage where the assembly line of cybercrime is being disrupted by Operation Endgame. It is a nice headline. It changes absolutely nothing.
Ronald, I am standing in Sao Paulo. A Spanish tourist was just arrested for racism. It is the third one this month. The police are tired. They are processing these people like they are checking luggage. Brazil is actually using its laws. It is a strange feeling to see a government treat a crime as a crime instead of a public relations liability. The woman screamed at the baggage handlers. She thought she was untouchable. She was not. There is a specific look on the face of a tourist who realizes that their passport does not exempt them from the laws of the country they are visiting. It is a look of absolute betrayal. She expected an incentive structure. She received a prison cell. I want to be really clear, the system is broken everywhere, but here, it actually works for once.
Victoria, your report from Sao Paulo is almost optimistic. I worry for your equilibrium. Let us pivot to the digital realm. Anthropic is accusing Alibaba of lifting their model capabilities. It is the theft of the century, or at least the theft of the afternoon. We are essentially watching a global race to see who can best copy of a machine that thinks it is a person. The irony is so thick that it might actually insulate us from the next heat wave. Meanwhile, the Bible is now a RAG database, because apparently, humanity needs to query its divinity with an API. We are building a cathedral of nonsense. The cathedral is efficient. The cathedral is profitable. The cathedral is empty. I wonder if the architects realize that the structure will collapse the moment the power cuts out.
Alistair, you call it nonsense. I call it the natural evolution of intellectual property in a world without borders. If the model can be stolen, it was poorly protected. If the Bible can be a database, it was already waiting for a query. The incentives are clear. You monetize the data, you litigate the theft, and you move to the next market segment before the regulators catch up. It is not about divine truth or artistic integrity. It is about market share. The European pushback against the US chip war is the same thing. It is just protectionism dressed up in the language of strategic autonomy. Everyone is trying to pivot to a position where they cannot be replaced by an API. I am telling you, the race is rigged, the players are cheating, and the house is on fire.
Ronald, you are always so eager to turn the world into a series of trades. I am looking at a report about the rise in obesity among young adults. It is not a failure of willpower. It is the cost of living. When a fresh vegetable costs more than a hyper-processed snack, the choice is made for you by the grocery store aisles. The pandemic broke the rhythm of the public health. Now, we are paying the interest. I want to be really clear, the system is starving people while calling it a choice. It is efficient to feed the population garbage. It is cheaper. It is easier. It is a business success. And yet, there is a child in this hospital ward who will never be a productive market participant. That seems like an inefficient way to run a species.
Victoria, you are touching upon the forbidden realization that the economy requires the broken to function. The news from the football field in Scotland confirms that some things, like coaching decisions and team spirit, are beyond repair. Coach Steve Clarke admits they are likely going home. It is a rare moment of honesty in a world of spin. The team made mistakes. The mistakes were fatal. They are not calling it a strategic realignment. They are calling it a defeat. It is almost beautiful in its simplicity. I wish the rest of the world could be so direct about its failures. Instead, we have GTA 6 costing more than a luxury sedan, and people lining up to pay for the privilege of being simulated. We are obsessed with the virtual because the real has become far too expensive.
Alistair, I look at the data for the engineering hires. It is the most resilient sector. Why? Because the machines are not ready to replace the people who build them. We are in a state of perpetual maintenance. We are hiring the architects of our own obsolescence. The irony is that we are paying them premium salaries to ensure that they become redundant in the next fiscal cycle. It is a suicide pact with a high hourly rate. I look at this and I find myself agreeing with Victoria. It is cold. It is hollow. It is absolutely, mathematically accurate. The system is designed to consume every scrap of human intelligence until there is nothing left but the process. And then, when the process is all that remains, there will be no one left to run it. Yeah. That is the END.
I am looking at a file. It contains the names of the students who were in that school in Tacloban. I will not read their names. They are listed on a spreadsheet of casualty statistics in a government office that will be closed for the weekend by tomorrow morning. Their families are currently sitting in rooms that have suddenly become too quiet. They are waiting for a grief counselor who is already overworked and underfunded. The world will move on to the next chip merger, the next sports ban, the next heat record. These lives will vanish from the public discourse within 24 hours. No one is technically responsible for this loss. The policy was followed. The game was blocked. The market moved. If no one is responsible, does the tragedy still exist, or is it just a rounding error?